Hello again, and this time we're going to look at memory management used in Elite Next within the ZX Spectrum Next. So the memory banks are laid out as follows. I use slot 0, which is normally used for writing, reading from the screen as a write-only access temporarily to copy data when I'm setting up areas such as the Galaxy seed data, copying in routines there for our master template and the universe data for AI, etc. Copying routines there from a single bank into each one as a series of mirrored templates. The main code is at address 8000, which is general code, main loop, global variables, and sort of simple hookups that are used commonly between all the routines. Slot 6 is the area which contains the main game functionality. So for instance, each of the screens and the universe data where it holds the AI for the ships and their ship runtime data rather than the static data that's loaded up when bringing a new ship into the current system. And the final slot I use is slot 7 at address E000, which contains general purpose utility routines and master data sets. So for example, there would be layer 1 or layer 2 graphics, the ship 3D model data, and all of the seeds for each galaxy in their own memory bank. Now, organization of game functionality. In particular, this is about slot 6, which is address C000. I've got each one of the screen routines, as you can see here, galactic equipment inventory, etc. The AI logic and ship rendering routines. So that is held in what I call a universe bank. This contains all the code logic and the data sets for temporary data for each ship as they come in and out. Organization of utility banks. Slot E000 holds the general utilities and banks of data. So for instance, layer 1 graphics routines for CLS, print characters, draw lines. Same thing with layer 2, it allows you to draw colored lines, print text in there. Used for things like filled triangles as well, if I manage to get the performance up enough to do solid filled ships. Layer 3 is used for sprites. That has things like the galactic chart and the local chart cursors, as it's much simpler to use sprites for handling there for erase and redraw. Lookup tables are also held in here, same for the stock data. So when you enter a system, it will work out the price of current data. You've got all the naming of all the stock items, availability of items. Also includes data for ship models in there. Data for all of the seeds. So, for instance, rather than going through logic of trying to calculate galaxy seeds on the fly, because the amount of memory a Next has, I can actually pre-compute all 8 current galaxies up in advance, so I can just use a lookup table in there based on the cursor position to find the respective galaxy data. The final bit is the bitmap images for the console for forward, rear, left, right views. That's all loaded from bitmap, which is imported into the next format and pulled into the screen at layer 2 when needed. Sorry, layer 1 when needed. Main loop lookups. So for each of the screen routines, because they're in separate banks, it needs to know which one to call. So what I've done is I've set up a table with each of the screen in effect numbered 1 onwards, the key code which is required to press it, the corresponding code page where the routines are held. So all the main routines and update routines must be in the same bank as present. I can move that later on, but it makes more sense to keep them together. There's an initial draw routine, which is what you first hit when you initialize the screen, and then during the main game loop, you can then hit an update routine. Now look at selecting a screen. This example is the equipment screen. So initially in the main routine, I call the screen key routine. That will then loop through all of the screen keys in the screen key map table. And the example here is we've pressed the letter C, in this case, which is row 7 on that table. We will then get the main bank and address for the draw routine. So bank 64, I will then push that into a location in the code for the screen loop bank, and it will push in there and modify this code in a self-modifying manner. I will also pull in the draw ship menu and then modify the jump routine later on at the end of the code so that on exit it will jump to this. Because this routine is activated by a call routine, rather than having to worry about a call to draw address and then return at the end, if I change that to a JP at the end, on exit of the main routine, the ret statement will automatically handle the return from here as well. Because all it's doing is pulling a return address off the stack. Finally there, I'm getting an address for the update routine, which is in here, and I modify the code and pushing it down into here. So the main loop routine is set as well, so that each iteration, it'll all now go through, select the bank. I'm using a select next reg. I've just got a macro in here as a replacement for it, which I'll show the detail next page. Drawing a screen equipment example. In the main loop, I've previously done the self-modifying code, so I've now set the JP to a draw ship equipment menu. That will then fire off into slot Z000. Within that, I select the current galaxy, which is all my seed tables and subroutines, by setting slot 7, which is E00, to the correct galaxy page. An example here, so I'll load A with the value of my current galaxy, add in the data 0, which is the offset for the page number, and then I'm just going to set the MMU to a value of 8, where in fact that starts at 60, so the galaxy is 60 to 67, and I'm setting slot 7. Within E000, I then got a number of various routines, such as picking up the current system galaxy seed via looking it up in the pre-built table, set the system name in a local variable in the galaxy, set the tech level or the system data, and then iterate through all the equipment and based on tech level, build up a table of what can and cannot be rendered to screen. Back then returning to C000, I copy the equipment data from the Galaxy data table, the name, and the various bits of information I need during rendering. In slot Z00, I then set layer 1 in slot 7 for my text drawing routines, and then I print the layer text to layer 1. As the layer 1 code works, it takes HL as the address of the text, which I've previously converted into a list of ASCII characters, and prints each one to the screen, usually with BC being the register that I'm holding the value of the cursor position to start at. I think that'll do for now. Bye all.